mentor. That's what I heard. He's a connector. Oh, yeah. He's a brilliant leader. I've seen it. He's Ken Bozak. Oh, happy bro. You gotta get some Bitcoin and hold it. Happy bros. You gotta get those NFTs and you gotta hodl that stuff. You gotta hodl it. 'Cause I'm Ken bro. We got your Bitcoin, bro. He's an original. Buy some NFTs and hold them. How many times does he have to tell you? Going to the moon. Going to the moon. We're going to the moon. We're going to the moon. Going to the moon. We're going to the moon. We're gonna get real high. 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 Yeah, we're going to the moon. We're going to the moon. Bro, we're going to the moon. Oh yeah, we're going to the moon. We're gonna get real high. Real high. Yep. Real high. Hello, happy bros. Come get some Ken Bozak.
And we're live. This thing on? Yeah, it is. Yeah. All right. I hope you enjoyed the background. It's Space Ghost Coast to Coast vibes, which was the inspiration of this like Roger Rabbit cartoon meets real life kind of environment. This is not another Bitcoin podcast, so it's not another one. Since 2016, I am Ken Bozak. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and all that, virtual engagement stuff. I guess we'll start at the beginning. We'll finish at the end, and I'll give you a chance to introduce yourself, let the audience know who you are, and maybe how we met, actually, which is really fun.
Okay. So I am Paulette Rakestraw, and we met at the Consensus conference in Miami, and I actually went there for my birthday. I'm such a nerd that that's what I wanted to do for my birthday, because I have been following the crypto space like obsessively for the last 5 years. I'm excited about where it's going. I want to actually work in the crypto space, and I have applied for job after job after job, and I have gotten 0 interview opportunities. So I was hoping to make some contacts and meet some people there that could refer me in for a job, because my background is so unusual that recruiters like overlook me, because I have built companies from the ground up. I started my first company when I was 19, grew it into like about a $5 million company with 100 employees. And I've had multiple businesses. After I sold that company, I've started other companies. And the last one was the one that kind of got me into the crypto space. And I can tell you about that later on if you want to hear about it. But anyway, so then I was an elected official. So I served 8 years on the Board of Education in my local community. And then I served 8 years as a state representative in Georgia. And then I was appointed by the governor to be the Georgia commissioner for the Compact for a Balanced Budget Amendment, which is a state-led initiative to require Washington to balance the budget and limit their ability to keep raising the debt ceiling, which is going to send us off the fiscal cliff. And I think crypto is going to be the solution. However, we still need to get this legislation done, because Washington's not going to rein their spending in themselves. the states need to take action and they can band together to do that. And but the problem we have had is we had a we had a funder that was funding the initiative initially, and we've had trouble raising money for the initiative, but it is so needed to save our nation. And the funder passed away and his family decided not to continue the funding. So we've been operating on a very shoestring budget, which makes it hard to get the word out. And I've worked in different states, in different legislatures to pass the compact amendment. It's actually got the amendment language written in the bill, and it's very well done, very well thought out, and it's the only thing they can take up at like a constitutional convention. So it safeguards from a runaway convention where they can open up the Constitution. There are concerns that other Article 5 initiatives, and there is one that's very well funded, but I think it's because they want to open up the Constitution to amend it and throw out things like the First Amendment and gun rights, things like that. So we need to protect our current Constitution and get a balanced budget amendment. And that's the only thing this puts forward, which is why it's very safeguarded, very well thought out. So I've worked in Washington also. There is a piece that Washington has to sign off on, but it's ministerial. So it's not like trying to get, a regular bill passed, where they want to talk it to death. And anyway, so that's a lot. So anyway,
Yeah,
I
no, it
am,
was awesome that we got to meet at consensus. You were talking to Miggy, and I think it was like the Wall Street Journal or something was eavesdropping, which was really funny. But yeah, I wanted to see what your thoughts are or what your insights are on the water cooler talk in like the political atmosphere around crypto. But you did mention, and we'll circle back to this, that you were looking for work at Consensus on your birthday of all days. Happy belated.
thank
Um, But maybe look at DAOs and check out things that have proposals because your skills are just as valuable in a decentralized ecosystem as much as a centralized government, right?
yeah,
We have governance, self governance. We have DAOs, and we
yeah,
vote on people to have certain positions in the project, whether it's the Litecoin Foundation voting on who has what role in the Litecoin Foundation or other projects doing similar things. You could always put your resume together and figure out a way to kind of pitch yourself to a DAO, and that way you're not really having an interview with one person in particular. You could actually have a community look at your accolades and see how
yeah.
useful you would be as a resource, and they would vote on a treasury that already has funding, and they need to vote on how to spend that money anyway. So you could just be an
Okay.
outlet or a resource, an opportunity for them to say, yes, we want to spend some of that money on this. So I would definitely look at DAOs and proposals, and I think
Okay.
Miggy might be able to. I'm throwing him under the bus here because he's really good at proposals and stuff. He might be able to help you figure out exactly how to finesse like a resume pitch to where it lets people know who you are, what you've done, and what you can do in their blockchain community. And like I said, they have a treasury full of money that they can't just spend on Lambos. They all have to
Right.
agree on where that money goes, and it has to be in a positive direction, hopefully to pump their bags.
Yeah, so my first company was a marketing company. My second company was a magazine. So I'm very good at writing, I'm good at marketing. I have a lot of great skills. Again, I have done, PR. When you're an elected official, you do all of those things, but a resume really doesn't tell the story. But when I just apply for jobs, recruiters don't know where to slot me, so they just skip over me, and somebody's missing out on a lot of talent here.
Well, I just
So,
had a guest yesterday. Crimson was on from Hive, and Hive, they like they're community funded as well, and they're looking for people like you. And I think if you had a chance to run into anybody from the Bitcoin magazine team while you were there at the conference, because they were running around.
I didn't meet anybody from the Bitcoin Magazine team. So, but I do have an issue with a DAO. So I have, I've been an investor for a long time, and I had maker tokens, and I was sending them to transfer them to Sky because Maker switched to Sky or something. I'm not sure what exactly happened, but they have a DAO. And when I went to copy, in my ledger, I went to copy the address for the Sky and sent some test tokens, and it went fine, or sent the maker tokens so I could convert them to Sky, and it went fine. Well, when I went back, apparently I picked up the contract address for the DAO and I sent the rest
Hmm.
of the tokens to the DAO. So about $12,000 worth of tokens, and I can't get them back because they all have to vote on it. And I don't really know how to get them to engage with me. I tried to do it on Discord and I kept getting all these spammy messages and then it locked me out on Discord. So
Yeah,
yeah,
this is one of the many issues with crypto, where is there's no tech support kind of vibes, and unfortunately,
yes.
sometimes there even feels like there is, but tech support just doesn't acknowledge your existence, and that's actually something I also spoke to Crimson yesterday about when it came to like decentralized governance, is like the inactivity of people in the space. You know, it's like how easy would it be for people to vote on, the solution for you so you could get your funds back, but nobody's
Right.
engaging. They're not even saying no. They're not even, they're just ignoring the problem, right? And they're getting paid.
Yes.
The people that get to vote on these things, they're paid by the network for staking, right? And they're supposed to participate with that weight. And if they don't, I feel like we need to figure out a way to punish them. It's like not really punish, but I guess a way to more so incentivize. Like I don't know. I'm big on gamification. What are your thoughts on, like, paying people to vote? Every time you go and vote
Well,
on something in your town, you get like an extra $100 in your income tax check or something. Like, we
if
gotta
they have
gamify
money
it.
locked up in a DAO to burn, why not? However, I do think that they they should do a one-time vote. And, well, first of all, I wasn't happy that Ledger made that an option. They should have never made that an option to be able to copy and paste that address out of the wallet. It should only be your wallet addresses that they allow you to copy and paste to prevent issues like this. That's number one. But number two, if you could get the DAO to engage, they should vote to return everybody's money that, you know, was accidentally put into the DAO, because I don't know why else people would be sending money to the DAO or sending their tokens to the DAO. Um, but that,
Yeah, some
somehow
people do it
reach
to
out.
burn them. It's sort of like a political thing in crypto at this point. Like, that's basically like a burn that people will do or something. But I guess to circle back to my original thought of convo was, you're in a different side of this, world where you have these, political water cooler talk conversations or whatever. What's the vibe in those circles of friends that you have around crypto? I'm sure they were kind of like, be careful going to consensus on your birthday. You're gonna get hacked or something. Like, what were they asking you when you got back?
Well, I haven't really talked to him since I've been back because I haven't really been like in the States and the and in Washington, in a couple of years. But when I was up there working and talking to them about crypto, and my colleagues that I have worked with, in Georgia, and just the my friends that I do stay in touch with from other states, um, a lot of them roll their eyes at me. They think it's a scam. They're like, they have no idea that this whole financial system is moving. And I have told them, like, my closest friends, I'm like, you better invest because $100 trillion is about to come flooding into this market and you don't want to miss the boat. And so, again, a lot of them don't want to take the time to learn how, it's got to be like super simple, and, and things like what happened with me and the DAO. It shouldn't be that
Yeah.
complicated. I mean, I've spent a lot of, a lot of time and energy learning how to do it, and even as much as I knew and as much as I have educated myself and my friends about how to protect their crypto, I got scammed on top
Yeah.
of that. And I accidentally sent a lot of tokens to a DAO
When did
where
the
they
internet
locked
get
up.
to a point where it was, at a consensus where people weren't too afraid of it anymore? Like I remember the AOL discs at the grocery store, and at that point there was like the Nigerian Prince email scams, and people were still hesitant about it. They had to like turn off their landlines. People were afraid if somebody knew you were on the internet, you may have your house broken into because they know you can't call the cops because your phone line's being used for the internet. It was like weird conspiracies around people not using it. But then there was a shift, and everybody from my grandma to my niece and nephew had the internet. What does it take for crypto to get to whatever that was?
Well, I think the meme coin rug pulls are a problem, especially, you know, when they happen on a highly visible level that discredits the industry. I know meme coins have been hot and popping, and people have gotten involved, and then a lot of people have, lost because they got involved. I think when a lot of people don't know to put their money in cold storage wallet, and thank God I have done that because I had a very elaborate scam, and it was so bizarre. Again, I told you I was applying for jobs in the crypto space, and I would send my resume and then reach out to some people in the company to try to get visibility on my resume again because the recruiters don't know where to slot me, so they look over me. And I had someone from Chainlink supposedly reach out to me and ask me to do a series of podcasts. They said they'd just gotten funding. We worked on this for like 2 months, and we were gonna he was gonna introduce me to the team. I talked to him on the phone. He was gonna introduce me to the team, and he pulled up a screen, and I know better than to click on links, but I was a little bit nervous because I'm like, okay, I'm meeting the team, and I'm gonna be doing the podcast, so I wasn't thinking. And so he said, well, we're using this software, and I was like, well, why aren't we just using Zoom since we're on Zoom? And he was like, oh, the team's in here. There were pictures of people at Chainlink on the screen, looked legitimate. I clicked on the link, signed up for an account for the
Oh.
software, and he was trying to troubleshoot, he would put me on hold with tech support. They were stealing wallet money out of my hot wallets. So they stole about $30,000 worth of crypto from me, which is sickening, but thank God I knew enough to have most of it secured on a cold storage wallet. And
Wow. I
I,
mean, if it makes
when
you
I
feel any better, there's content creators that I know that have been in this space almost a decade, and similar things have actually happened to them not too long ago. So I mean, it could happen to anybody, unfortunately. It's almost uncomfortable how skeptical you have to be, or at least almost insulting how skeptical you have to be, because when somebody sends you a link, like I've had people worry about joining this Zoom call because they've been hacked before because of Zoom links, and I'm like, well, I didn't send you the link. Calendly sent you the link, and that was through a Google sign up through a thing. So it's all like trusted third party stuff. But it's
yeah.
still like, people worry about that. And you almost have to insult people to make
Oh,
sure
definitely.
that, did you just copy and paste this link? And then, like, what keyboard are you using? Because you may have a keylogger. You may actually think you sent me the right link, but the keyboard that you're using on your phone or your computer, when you hit paste, it sent me a totally different link now. And, like, so yeah, I'm so sorry that that happened, but I don't know if there's a remedy to that situation outside of, user awareness, because there's no real repercussions or recourses for the criminals at this level, right? It's not like somebody, gonna take something out of your mailbox and then you can set a trap for them. It's people halfway around the world using VPNs and crypto that's swapped around through tumblers and mixers, and I don't know if you could come up with a preventative measure or a punishable recourse, but I think just awareness, even at like the middle school level. Because, like, if we don't start teaching 5 and 6 year olds about a lot of this stuff that's going on, somebody's going to use a deep fake and they're going to call somebody's kid and they're going to look like grandmom on the phone. It's going to look and sound just like a relative on the phone because they're using AI and deep fake technology, and they're going to have them do something that compromises the security or the internet of the house. And I think that's the user, what is it, the $5 wrench thing. Like, your house can be as secure as you want, but if I can break my way in with a wrench, or take advantage of somebody by hacking the human aspect. I think it all starts with awareness and education. We have to put this stuff in schools. I mean, that's another thing in crypto. We argue there's no curriculum for how to write a check, how to, make sure your
Right,
credit's
basic
good and all that.
finance.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
personal
how
finance.
how do we go from no basic finance education to not only do we have basic finance education, but also OPSEC education? Password generation every couple of days, and it's different things that we should be teaching these kids about, like just cybersecurity, financial awareness, and it almost feels like the entire educational system needs to be restructured for practical education.
Well, having come from a board of education that I was elected to for 8 years, there's a lot of indoctrination that goes on in the schools, and there's a lot of things they're not teaching. Meanwhile, ignoring, for instance, we had this big mission statement about how, we wanted to be um, we wanted to prepare students for the postgraduate um, experience, and I was like, well, we're competing in a global marketplace, and in other countries they learn multiple languages, so we
Yeah.
need to be teaching foreign languages at a young age. And they're like, oh, well, we're having trouble teaching them the basics. And I'm like, well, why is that? Because they sure do get a good education on a lot of things that are unnecessary, but not getting a financial education, not getting, good civics, and things that are really important for them to know. And it's the dumbing down of, in America, the dumbing down of our students, so that, you know, I, I could go on and on about the problems in the educational system. However, the fix is not going to happen because politically, you can't vote to fix anything, because then the unions will come out and work against you en masse. They should not be able to do that because you're trying to fix education. The best model I've seen is the school choice model, where business, like schools, have to compete like a business for customers, and if they can't, they shut down. And it changes the where the money follows the child. The parents have the ability to make decisions where their kids go to school, and that would
Right.
be a game changer in education, instead of running it by all this bureaucracy that is not working. I mean,
Well,
now we
why
have.
did homeschooling work for like 2 years during the lockdown, during the pandemic, but all of a sudden it'll never work? It can't work. I mean, it worked, and it worked
I think
well. Kids were testing positive.
a lot of people's eyes were opened, I think, during the pandemic about the problems in education and why they won't be fixed. And one issue, we need to pay these teachers to educate and not to be educated. The second issue is education has become about the adults, not the students. It's about the pensions. They're out there complaining about low pay, and however, there's no accountability, and there's a lot of great teachers in the system, don't get me wrong, but the system, instead of making them go to school for higher degrees, and at night, they could focus in the classroom,
Mm-hmm.
and we could pay for performance. We could pay for, um, you know, better ideas or things in the classroom that would make the classroom operate better, and not sending them to school. And that's just a treadmill to keep pumping up at more education because, you know, it's, I mean, we're passing people. So in Georgia, we have a Hope Scholarship and we've put a lot of money in education. Well, we're passing kids on into college that can barely read and write. I went back
Uh,
and got my degree in 2010. I did it in 18 months. I could hire interns on my campaigns or at my companies, and the interns get credit, but I got no credit for teaching them about marketing, about PR, about any business, any of that. Had I done that, I would have been able to graduate in 12 months. But so, but we're passing kids. But anyway, they basically spoon feed this stuff to you. If you cannot pass a college class, they have a pre thing. They're like, oh, we're going to cover what's going to be on the test. They tell you what is going to be on the test.
yeah.
I mean, if you go in and
It's
just,
very much Idiocracy. I don't know if you ever seen
it's,
the movie
it
by
is
Mike Judd.
so, yeah. I mean, but some of these kids are coming out of college and they can barely read and write, but they're getting passed through. So now employers want a master's degree to get people to stand out. A lot of employers, though, I've noticed in recent years have done away with degree requirements. They're more like suggestions or preferences. And I used to hire people all the time at my companies. And I'll tell you what, I would take initiative and work ethic any day over a degree because I've seen some people, again, coming out with a degree that can barely read and write. Um, the grammar in, that I see teachers speaking that have high degrees and they speak horrible
Well, why
grammar.
don't we test teachers? I feel like they should be tested as often as the students to make sure that they're, aware of the curriculum that they're teaching. The joke when I was in high school, whether you were in social studies, math class, English class, history, it didn't matter. If you didn't know the question and the teacher tried to make fun of you, you would just ask them the next question and tell them not to look at their cheat sheet book, and they wouldn't know the answer either. So it would like everyone would laugh.
Yeah, I don't know that testing is the answer because teachers really are under a lot. They have so much requirement. And if you think about it, here's why. So every 4 years, when an election changes, or you get a new governor every 8 years, or new, federal at every level, federal, state, local, you've got all these governing bodies that want to, oh, well, I'm going to do this to education. So we're changing education every 8 years. I think we need to put Khan Academy for mathematics in all the schools. It works. People are learning math. Why are we changing math curriculum every 8 years? And
Hmm.
every 8 years, you get somebody, at the national level going, I'm gonna fix education. We have not fixed education. We have thrown more money at it. We have gotten more and more failure. We keep funding failure and without accountability, which is why I think the money should follow the child. School choice is the best thing, to fix education and get schools competing like businesses do for
Yeah,
customers.
exactly.
There's a lot of pieces, but part of the problem is the rate of change. We used to say it's like trying to change a tire on a bus going 60 miles an hour. Because then the state implements changes every 7 years, new textbooks, new this,
Well,
and it's
there's
all
online colleges and online high schools, and I don't know,
right.
are there like online middle schools? And I mean, there has to be
I mean,
solutions
there
where,
are, but then the other problem is you've got parents that want the babysitting service. If you try to take kids and, not if you try to take kids and take them out of the classroom and let them learn, the parents are like, well, I've got to work. What am I supposed to
yeah,
do
but
with
why
them?
not just have like one person on the block have 10 kids come and they have like a live feed,
Oh,
and all
co-op,
the
like homeschool co-op.
yeah, homeschool
Yes,
co-op,
they
exactly.
have been very successful with that.
Oh, cool.
But again, if you've got parents, heck, right now some parents are working 2 and 3 jobs trying to make ends meet. And a lot of kids, sadly, because of mental health and drug issues, another big problem we have to solve. You've got a lot of kids being raised by wolves or raising themselves, and it is so sad. And
Yeah.
until we fix mental health and addiction in the world, we're not going to stop mass shootings. Again, solving the wrong problem. Everyone
The
wants to hear
best way
about
to do that is America's got
about
to go cold turkey. We got to just stop with the whole pharmaceuticals for kids thing. You shouldn't be able to give kids
absolutely.
ADHD medicine at 6 years old.
Yes.
That's
You
insane.
know, every single shooter we've had has been on psychotropic medication, unmonitored. It that is a whole nother problem in itself, but we keep fighting over guns, and as long as we keep trying to solve the wrong problem, we're never going to solve the problem.
Oh yeah, I've been on those drugs before because I was a pretty a rowdy kid, and it definitely fucks with your limits on things. Like
Oh, definitely.
like you almost become numb to
Yes.
consequence or whatever. It doesn't like if you're
Yes.
depressed or whatever, it doesn't really stop you from doing things that make you depressed. It's just now you're numb to it, so you just keep doing depressing shit without feeling depressed. It doesn't
Yes.
stop. It just yes, and then like I don't know. I remember being prescribed Xanax when I was in high school, and when I was on them at the time, everybody would make fun of the fact that I was like a little bit of a klepto. I would just steal random shit because I was so like I don't know. There was no that thing that would stop you from just like putting a thing like a giant
Yeah.
drink in your pocket. It just
Yeah.
wasn't turned on because of those
Yeah.
fucking drugs. So I was like, all right. Then even as a kid, I was aware of this stuff. So like, I got emancipated, stopped taking stuff, and I guess like I self medicated with cannabis, but that was about it. I stopped
Right.
doing all those
And there's
pharmaceuticals
a
at a young age because I was aware. I was like, this shit's fucking
yeah.
with like who I am as a person. Like I don't
Right. And
steal shit.
there's a lot of good, I mean, I think that, plant medicines, a lot of good things in therapy that are more effective than, oh, well, here's a pill, but don't do drugs. But we're going to prescribe you meds,
Yeah.
and then we're not going to monitor it.
And then
We're
they
not.
blame video games and music, and you're like,
Yes.
I
And
think it was the drugs they were on. Like, if they were on acid, you would blame the acid, but because they were on Xanax, you don't blame the Xanax.
yeah, so there's no money in it for big pharma. However, there are a lot of medicinal qualities to things like mushrooms, to marijuana, and so a lot of people do try to self-medicate, but I would rather them get like clean versions of that and not have stuff that's laced with fentanyl, street
Yeah,
drugs that are dangerous, and we actually passed, medical marijuana in Georgia for we didn't
congrats.
yeah, well we when I was in the legislature, but we didn't deal with the cultivation aspect of it. So it's like
Mm.
if you can get it legally, you can't cross state lines. So that's a whole nother
Yeah,
whole
I definitely want to get into growing my own because I feel like all the street drugs are laced nowadays sort of as like another psyop to get everybody to
they're
go to
scary.
the
Yeah.
dispensaries. I
Yeah.
never got laced. I remember it being like a conspiracy with like DARE and all those drug programs where like you're gonna buy
Yeah.
weed and someone's gonna lace it with drugs and I never got weed that wasn't weed. It was always just weed when I was getting it from the streets. But
Yeah.
now that there's a choice to go to a store and pay a company that sells it and pay 30% sales tax, all of a sudden this stuff on the street is really not safe. So it almost feels like an intentional
Yeah.
situation. And in like 10 years from now, somebody's going to fucking leak a document and it's going to be like proven that the government or like, Philip Morris has been the one like making all the street drugs really bad because they're even
Yeah.
legalizing psychedelic mushrooms where you could buy those at the grocery store in like Denver or at a gas
Oh, wow.
station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of, that's good for like depression and anxiety. But you've mentioned the DARE program. It's so funny. So here's one of the frustrating things about politics is, I wanted to like look at effective ways to treat like mental health and addiction issues and one of the things is we're like funding this DARE program, but I know so many kids that have gone through it is like completely useless. So
Yeah.
many kids have gone through DARE, and I even quoted some stats about like, okay, we're funding DARE, but we need to fund less of that and do more effective things. And they have shown the link, that this whole thing we've been said about, oh, addiction is hereditary and you have a gene. There's actually a lot of research. I read a book called Chasing the Scream, very good book, and it talks about how trauma is what really drives addiction.
Yeah,
That's the difference between the person that can experiment with drugs and the person that gets hooked. And when you start to treat the trauma effectively, not give them a pill and send them on their way, you actually treat the trauma effectively, then the addiction heals and goes away. And once we
yeah,
start doing that, then you can start healing the broken families where you've got kids raising themselves. I mean, so, there's so much change that has to happen. And so, having been on the inside of the political system, I've seen a lot and experienced a lot. So, back to DARE, I was like, well, we don't need to keep funding this program. And what did they do? They went and got more funding for more DARE programs in the schools, even though we laid out the case about how ineffective it was. It was about the money. It's a sad state of things that, you can't really fix things because as an entrepreneur, we're problem solvers, and so in the political realm, where I try to do a lot of good things, it's hard to solve problems when you've got people that want to bury their head in the sand. As for instance, when we would talk about gun legislation and mass shootings would always be brought up. And I'm like, well, if we want to fix that, we've got to stop giving psychotropic medication and not monitoring how people are doing because every shooter has been on psychotropics. And, if people need that and they want to go that route, fine, but there's got to be more monitoring. And mental health doesn't happen Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, which is when your mental health professionals are there seeing people and handing out, dispensing prescriptions for drugs. So one of my one of my children has had like he's got like very high functioning autism coupled with a an anxiety disorder and he's refused to take medication. Well, one time I was like, "Well, just try it. Let's see if it helps." And he went in and, you know, told the doctor, spent 15 minutes with us and he was like, "Well, I'm concerned about taking this because it causes homicidal thoughts, suicidal thoughts," and read off this whole list. And the doctor barely spoke English, wrote him prescription, and pointed to a sign on the wall that said, "This causes homicidal thoughts, suicidal thoughts." And but spent no time with him, did not check on him after prescribing it. Again, a huge problem with the system is we're handing out, prescriptions for uh drugs like they're Skittles, and then we don't
Oh,
go
and
back.
people don't even understand the like Skittles part of that because the way doctors are allowed to prescribe things, it doesn't always necessarily have to be exactly what that drug is, designed to do. So, like, say you are having trouble sleeping at night. Well, if they got to deal with like a psycho whatever company to give you something, they could give you like a mood stabilizer that's for people that have, split personality disorders, but it also has this effect that helps you sleep at night. So here, just take this instead. And now somebody who thinks they're on a sleep aid is really on an antipsychotic, but just
Yeah.
because the doctor said it will help them sleep at night, right? And that is the part where people don't understand the like Skittle shit. It's like every once in a while, you ask somebody that you care about what they're prescribed and do them a favor and look up the intent behind the drug, and you'll find out 9 out of 10 times the intent isn't why they're taking it. It's for one of the side effects of the drug is why they're on it. It's not. It's so scary. But I think
Yeah.
that backtrack, like that timeline, will the law will catch up to all of that. I think that that's again a generational thing where they got away with it for a while, but the generation at the pharmaceutical industry fucked up. Now we're in our 30s and we're coming for them.
Right. Well, so we have generations of addiction and mental health that has gone unaddressed now. And every generation that we don't solve the problem, we create an entirely new generation of addicts because of the trauma that they experience from the broken home.
Yep.
And so I have a friend that does these really powerful workshops, and I would love to bring it into mental health and addiction treatment, but there is no tracking anywhere of statistics of how many people come out of rehab and don't relapse. Are we keeping them long enough to, because it's funny because I gave a speech at a thing when I was in office, and there was a guy from a rehab, and we could have written each other's speeches. They were so closely aligned, and he said, by the time we get their mental and their physical cleared, their physical addictions and cravings, then it's time to do the deeper work, the emotional and the spiritual, which is where you get the lasting change, and doing things like breath work, um, helping them connect, because the opposite of addiction is connection. And so a lot of people are so disconnected and don't even realize it because their trauma has disconnected them. Again, highly recommend Chasing the Scream. So I think it was in Denmark or Norway. So they actually legalized drugs and they started spending the money on effective treatment, and they
Mm.
got their population down. It was like 6% of their population was addicted, and they got it down to less than 1%, and those were the most severe among them. And the police were actually out, when, as of the writing of the book, they were out and they had an initiative to actually try to reach out in like the burnout tenements and the places where the worst of them, and they were trying to rebuild trust with them to get those people into treatment to heal their trauma so that they could heal their addiction and get them on a better path in life. But they had a very effective program. So, but anyway, there is nothing anywhere in the United States that tracks the effectiveness of our rehabs.
It's probably because
So,
it wouldn't be good for the bottom line. And you know what is crazy? You inspired my brain to do something in the background when you were talking about Dare. A good like OPSEC or like cyber security version would be sort of like, instead of Dare, something maybe called Scam, and then have it sort of be a cybersecurity program for kids, because a lot of these kids are going to start getting scammed hella hard, and parents aren't ready for that to be the biggest exploit, but it already kind of is. Look how many times kids steal their parents' credit cards to pay for Fortnite skins or Roblox, right? Like, parents wake up and there's like, wait, 10 grand, how? And the kids stole from you, bro. They're 6 years old, and they were kind of
yeah,
programmed to do it by the game, right? Like,
yeah,
but yeah,
yeah,
wait till people are using the tools like AI and deepfake to trick kids into giving them your credit card info, or a game specifically designed for kids to play, but it gives criminals a virtual IP into your house, like Pokemon Go, but it's really some criminal looking at the camera, seeing all the stuff that's in your house, right? Like, we need education around cybersecurity for kids, and yeah, instead
yeah.
of Dare, we could do Scam and do a cybersecurity version.
Yeah. Now, I think with the cybersecurity stuff, and I mean, I think we're going to be moving to identity verification, facial recognition, fingerprint
Hmm.
scanning, maybe chipping. I know that's where all this is supposed to be going, which is a little scary, but
Yeah,
but if it
without
protects
fingerprints and
people,
eyes, I could easily steal your phone and make it look like you did something illegal with it, right? Like, if all I
yeah,
need is your phone, that's like a digital identity, and I post something that's not just explicit but illegally explicit on Facebook, you're guilty as charged, right? Like, so yeah, it's gonna be real weird to see like how that works, because I could already see the game theory of it, how bad actors are going to take advantage of, like, or even how the 1% are going to be like, oh, I got hacked, it wasn't really me, right? Like,
yeah, yeah. Oh, so I did want to tell you the story about how I got into crypto though. So during the pandemic, the last company that I built was, I don't know if you remember when, states and hospitals couldn't get the masks and the gowns they needed, and they were running out. And so I put together a team of like elected officials and people across the nation that I have worked with as the compact commissioner to reach into hospitals and states to provide PPE gear and sourcing the
Wow.
materials like in China and Turkey and overseas, Malaysia, where they were making this stuff. And so we were, we were working with states. Well, part of the problem is purchasing people wanted to, you know, operate like they always did. I'm going to spec it, bid it, and then award a purchase order. Well, the market was moving. I mean, prices were changing by the hour. Stuff would get sold out from under you. If you ordered the stuff, you had to have millions to buy it, like in orders. You had to order 1 million. They wouldn't just sell you like 100 gowns. You had to have
Wow.
big orders. And so, I think we had like one week we had like $26 million in purchase orders, and hospitals were calling us going, we're completely out of stuff. We're having to reuse our masks and gowns, which kind of defeats the purpose. So anyway, prices were changing. They'd give us a purchase order. Okay, the price just tripled in the last day, and if you ordered it, it took 8 months for them to produce it because production schedules were so backed out. But there were things you could buy, that were readily available, but you had to weed through the scammers. A lot of hospitals and states were getting scammed. And so once you got all those pieces lined up and you're like, okay, I've got
Wow.
good product here, you had to go to a bank to send a wire. And you had to have an appointment to get into the bank to send a wire, which could take a week or two. Well, that stuff would get gone, and then you'd have to start over trying to source
Bitcoin
product.
fixes this.
So I started sending crypto to secure it and just to get it to move. And then shipping, because you were ordering millions at a time, they couldn't just put it on plane. They were shipping it via slow boat from China, literally. And so it would take 4 or 5 weeks to get it here. And, then you had to clear customs and, so much bureaucracy. And so, that's what got me interested in crypto. And I was like, oh, I see where the world's going. And then I got avidly interested in that. So I've been heads down learning about that, for the last 5 years. And,
Oh wow, so you see all the solutions and you know about all the problems, sort of like where the bodies are buried, and I'm wondering sort of what other epiphanies have you kind of had since then where it was like, oh, this would just make this so much easier. What are some of the other things you'd like to see, crypto used for or parts used in? Because for me personally, I think it would be fun to see like the lottery kind of utilizing blockchain technology since it's
yeah,
a voluntary tax. We could use blockchain technology and do these lotteries that are more fair, they're transparent, they're auditable. We know the
yeah,
random number generator is actually going to pick a random winner, and we could see
yeah.
the payouts and all that stuff. Yeah, it'd just be really cool
There's
to see like
so
the lottery be crypto. But yeah, what are some things you'd like to see?
I mean, there's so many. I mean, just AI coupled with, the AI, it's like we have two revolutions coming together, crypto and AI at the same time. And so that's going to transform the world way more than the internet did, way more than the industrial revolution did. Oh, we also have biotech that's part of the revolution. So it's
Yeah,
going to
everyone
change
forgets about CRISPR or whatever.
everything. People thought we were in the information age like 20 years ago, but we were actually in the age of biotech. And, so it's like all culminating, and the change, everything it's going to change in the world is just, you know, unbelievable. It's fascinating to me. Again, I'm such a nerd that I like nerd out on this stuff. And it's just going to change every aspect of our lives. For instance, like money, right now, companies pay every what week, every 2 weeks, twice a month. They're going to be able to stream money to you like by the minute, by the hour,
But
um,
instantly, exactly, and not even just
instantly.
pay me, but like all my bills will get a percentage, an even percentage taken out of
Yeah.
that every second. So as I'm working, all my bills are being paid evenly. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, and so you can manage your cash flow better, And so, but one of the things I think is really cool is we've been looking at Teslas lately. We actually just ordered one, and my boyfriend keeps up with tech too, so he's all tech nerd. And so where Tesla's going, like the next, like they're on version 4, when version 5 comes out, you're going to be able to send your car out to do like Uber driving while you sleep and make money while you
Yes.
sleep. Residual income. Like, what's not to love about that? It's brilliant, and it's going to help people in the agentic economy we're moving towards.
Yeah, I
It's a
love
game
that.
changer.
If your car doesn't work for you while you're sleeping, then why even own it? And that should go for everything if you think about it. Like,
Yeah.
and I do worry because I guess there's that dystopian you'll own nothing and you'll like it kind of vibes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I
that
think
concerns me too.
if we do it at that like communal level where like I don't own the lawnmower on the block, but I own 20th of a percent, or I have a share
Yes.
in the lawnmower because
Right.
everybody that lives here uses that lawnmower that we all contribute to, because not every fucking house in the cul-de-sac needs to have their own lawnmower. That
I
that
agree.
consumeristic mentality is, I think,
Yes.
kind
We
of
need,
going.
I think less stuff in our lives is like, because, for me, stuff to maintain, because I've had like houses and properties, and it stresses me out. I like divested myself of, you know, just about everything and decided to, downsize and simplify, and
Yeah.
so that
Well,
appeals to me, and having, like more shared community type stuff makes a lot of
right.
sense. Where, if you can take an asset and make money off of it, you're going to learn about making money and residual
That's what
income
ride sharing
together.
did for everybody, and it kind of
Yeah.
disrupted public transportation and the taxi industry. Uber
Yeah.
Eats did the same thing with, sort of privatized food delivery services, where now everybody can, be the pizza guy just if they need to for the day. You don't, need
Yeah.
to keep that job all day every day to maintenance the fact that you might need like side hustle income. If you just need a few dollars on a Tuesday, you just pop the app open and you can deliver pizza or whatever on a Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
And that level of empowerment, and I think that, share mentality of like, it sucks that it's centralized to like Uber, right? But I feel like that's gonna be where it used to be, where everybody had their own website. Like, when I was using the internet as a kid, you would meet people. Obviously, I'm a kid, but when you would meet somebody who's like 25 when I was like 15, they wouldn't really tell you to go to like MySpace or Facebook. Or actually, I guess when I was like 11 and they were 25, they would just say, "Here's my website." And you would go
Yeah.
to some random website on the internet, and that would be
Yeah.
their Facebook account or their Twitter account. It was a whole website that they just managed every day and updated. And I think that that's where we're going back. We're going full circle to where people are going to get off of Uber and have their own rideshare app, and people are going to get off of Twitter and they're going to have their own websites again.
Oh, you think? Okay. Well, that's interesting. No, it's funny. When I was a legislator, I actually worked on some of the legislation where Uber and taxis were duking it out over licensing, and we were requiring that of taxis. And then Uber, didn't want to pay taxes, and they're
Oh,
like, well,
yeah.
we're not, we're just ride sharing services. We're not really like a
Uber's going to be
legitimate
fighting for
business.
their life soon, because I can just give AI the Uber app and say, hey, create this entire application. And then it just copies it. And now I have my own Uber app. And then if
Yeah,
I
that's
need any
cool.
back end services like GPS and
Yeah.
all this stuff, I just pay for the plugins. And now I have a Ken Uber app. And then I
Oh,
could just tell people, download this app if you want me to pick you up from the airport. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah, so, you have a lot of influencers that are going to take advantage of that, and,
Yep.
be able to reach a lot of people. But then you're going to have, the working sticks that, where they don't have time to do anything. No, so one of the things I was going to say is like one of the things I see and I love is that AI is going to save people a lot of time in their jobs. And so, and hopefully the cost of Uber comes down so it's more affordable for people to Uber rather than, take on the cost of owning their own vehicle. That makes a lot of sense to me. A lot of things will come down when you take out labor costs. A lot of the prices should come down tremendously. Um, but I think when people are saving time because AI is saving time, I'm hoping that the net effect is that people are going to have more time to connect, to raise their kids, to fix a lot of the societal ills that have been born out of busy parents that don't have time to parent and,
Yeah. But what are you going to
generate.
raise your kids to do? People used to raise their kids to be plumbers and electricians and,
Now
truck
those jobs are
drivers.
supposed, yeah, those are supposed to be not truck drivers, but I've heard plumbing and electrical is going to be pretty safe.
Nah,
And
I don't.
we'll
I mean,
see.
they're data mining everybody. I mean, if you look at what they did to people who were playing Pokemon Go, every
Hmm.
little robot on the sidewalk that delivers food, it's using all the data that was collected from people playing Pokemon Go on the sidewalk. They had
Okay.
access to the camera, they were mapping. I think all this stuff that, like, if you keep an eye on all the cool like robotics that are coming out for electricians and welders and plumbers, there's a lot
Hmm.
of IoT, the Internet of Things, and these devices that they're using, they're learning, and eventually they will. I mean, that's the problem, though, right? Like that's, and again, it goes to the saying, like, what are we going to raise our kids to do in our free time? Is like that we're either going to raise them to be Netflix, watchers or Hulu watchers, because consuming content's all that's really going to be left. Even with the AI stuff, people aren't really going to be motivated to be creative because of the money in it. It's even the best musicians you can name right now are all using AI in their music, and people can't tell. And the more they can't tell, the more they're going to keep using it, which means the less will be involved in everything.
Yeah, my
I
written some great AI music. Really, really great stuff.
Yeah,
I'm
that's all.
like,
I love that, but then again, like, what
awesome.
happens to the people that were trying to make a living off of music? I don't.
Well,
I don't
one
necessarily.
shouldn't negate the other. You should be able to make money doing either one.
But it
So we
does, though,
probably
right? How much
take,
money does an Amish guy make delivering milk as opposed to, like, a company that sells it at the supermarket? What kind of
well,
balanced
again,
playing
there's
field
the
is that?
rub. There's the rub. When you take the labor costs out, the prices of everything should come down. However, people need the labor of some sort unless they can come up with a better mousetrap to make money. They've got to have the income to be able to afford those things. I mean, they're saying universal basic income
Yeah, I'm
is
a
going to
big
be.
fan. I'm a big fan because of basic attention tokens. It's a blockchain token that was made by the guy who made Brave browser, and
I
it
have heard
basically
that.
pays you. Yeah, if you watch YouTube and do things on Brave browser, you can earn basic attention tokens. And that's what I'm
Okay.
saying when it comes to consuming content being like the only job there will be in the future. It's because basic attention tokens are going to want that fingerprint authentication for the sponsors of the ads to say, we don't just have viewers, we have authenticated viewers. Ken hit the fingerprint scanner on his phone, and then when he was watching Netflix, Netflix knows that it's not a bot. That way they could send that verified data, and data is worth so much. And they value that in basic attention tokens, which I can then sell and buy Uber Eats gift cards and spend my money on the thing that was advertised to me in which I earned the crypto. It's very cyclical with universal basic income and basic attention tokens, especially with
Okay, I didn't
AI.
know that. Interesting.
Yeah, big
Okay.
fan, because I think that's where we're headed for sure. Because
Yeah, yeah.
there's not going to be much for
Yeah.
people to do on the mass scale of things. Like, the unemployment rate's going to keep going up because industries as a whole are disappearing.
Yeah. So, well, but I think just like with everything, when they said when the internet came out that, everything else would be dead and, like
But
print
the internet
magazine,
didn't automate
there-
stuff, though. It
it just
helped us.
changes it. It just changes it. Yeah. You've
Well, with
still got to have,
AI though, it's automating, and that automation gets really. Like I said, that little food truck driving on the sidewalk delivering food replaced the person that would do it on a bicycle.
right, but you still have jobs that are linked to that. They just evolve and they change. Because I remember hearing this about the internet. Oh, the internet's gonna ruin industries, and it just changes them. You know, you have to adapt and evolve and change as the technology changes, and you
I
know,
think people are going to adapt to stealing AI robots off the sidewalk and scrapping it for copper and metal parts at this chop shop. Because I mean
yeah.
that's what
I
my
mean,
ghetto self would do in the hood. You know what I'm saying? Like if I see a
I've
robot
seen
taking
people
my
kick
job,
them and yeah, and poke at them, and
there's a
but
battery in that thing that's worth more money. So yeah, I could just see like that's going to be the job people get. If they keep taking jobs from people, people are just going to find a job taking these things apart. That's where I
well,
see.
and if we move toward universal basic income, hopefully, I mean, we'll work it
Well,
out. So,
gluttony will be a thing though. Even with UBI, you're not going to be able to get that Lamborghini or live in the penthouse. You're going to have to contribute in an actual, meaningful, valuable way to earn that Lamborghini because universal basic income and basic attention basically isn't getting you a Lamborghini. So people are always going to strive for gluttony and greed and accolades of some kind that have these status symbol, material objects. And I mean, the odds of people actually, contributing in a equal valuable way to society that equals a Lamborghini in that kind of economy. That's why I think lotteries and a lot of dystopia movies, lotteries are really popular. But that's really your only chance, whether it's the long walk or it's the Hunger Games. You're gonna have to play the lottery to get that Lamborghini because in a universal basic income, everybody's evened out except those who have won the lottery.
yeah.
And that's a
Well,
Bitcoin miner, by the way. You could win that lottery. I got one right here. It's like this big. You plug it into an outlet, and it's just a random chance, so small. But in the past like 15 years, there have been a dozen people that have just plugged this little thing into their outlet at home, and they got a whole block reward. So it
yeah,
happens. Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I think I mean that's why again I've been such an advocate for to like friends and family like you need to invest in crypto. That's where the world's going and you can create generational wealth if you do it well and
Oh
then
yeah.
like I said, I teach them to not keep their money on exchanges, put it into, hot or cold storage wallets, but now I recommend cold storage since, I
Tangent's
got
the
a
best
scan
if
too.
you're into the little hardware wallet gadgets. Tangent is probably
Is
the
it?
best. Yeah.
I've heard
Uh,
about Tangent, but I've never used a Tangent wallet, so
I'm trying to get them to hire me, so unbiasedly biased. I'm not on the payroll yet, but hopefully because they're the only one I would ever even work for ever. Like you couldn't pay me to promote Ledger or KeepKey or any of those other ones.
oh, oh
Yeah.
really? Why is that?
Because they're all exploitable. The reason that you constantly have updates for those kinds of hardware wallets is because people found exploits on them. And if I were to get my hands on your hardware wallet and maybe even destroy your private key, or what if something were to physically happen to you and then I take the safe, right? I could just wait a year or two, and then that hardware wallet that had a 4-digit password or something, I don't let it update the exploits, and I just utilize one of those exploits to get around the password, and I can get right into your hardware wallet a year or two from now because somebody will eventually crack that version of the software. And there's actually
Yeah.
a whole job for that. There's companies that you can send your loved ones who may have passed away their hardware wallets, and they'll keep trying to brute force an attack into it and get into the hardware wallet without the password. So the fact that that's even possible doesn't. Why would I even promote something like that?
Yeah, that's another problem to solve is what do you do when someone passes and they have their, if their fingerprint or eyeballs or, there's got to be, and so there's a whole nother thing that needs to be set up.
Dead
with
Man
like,
Switch does exist. It's in the code. Like all the wallets and all the exchanges that use this technology, they actually they opt out of turning on features that already exist. So natively inside the Bitcoin code, there is an option for a dead man switch that says like if I don't interact with this wallet for X amount of time, send all of these assets to this address. And so if something were to happen to you and nobody could access it, hopefully, you have a lawyer who has an address to a family's trust, and the trust will eventually receive it when that time period is triggered where the inactivity, happens. So it's all
yeah.
there, but nobody turns it on. And I think that that's out of that whole like pump my bags, because the less crypto that's in the market, the more it's valuable, right? Like all the gold that's lost at the bottom of the ocean, and sometimes when you see what happens to gold in transit, it doesn't look like an accident. It feels like they were kind of betting on the market having a supply issue at that moment, right? And I think they do the
And
same thing
on
to Bitcoin.
purpose.
They're like, oh, there's less Bitcoin available in the supply because look at all this lost Bitcoin, right?
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah, it's lost because the people that made the software sucked at helping people be their own bank. When you are being your own bank, it helps to have all the cool features, all that security stuff, but the wallets that are, being built, they're so remedial that they don't even have the basic redundancies for, being your own security guard in the wallet where you're being your own bank.
So what is it you like about Tangem? How do they get around these issues?
They actually have a chip that's proprietary that's on the actual thing. It's similar to tap and pay for your credit card, and then it
Okay.
uses your phone to sign a handshake for a 2FA. So you need to have your phone, which is all the extra stuff that's secured on your phone. If you're using an iPhone, even more secure. And then you get into the app. Then you have to tap it, and then you have to like put in another password. But that physical card, if somebody were to steal it, there is literally, even with exploits, no way for you to get into it and do anything with it. And I
Mhm.
guess if you were to steal my phone and the card without knowing anything, I still, I mean, you can't get through, the FBI can't get through iCloud. So yeah, it's like the most secure way to have like an actual 2FA on your hardware wallet. Because a lot of people that use 2FA, like, Google Authenticator, it's on the same device that they're asking for the Google Authenticator, right? So like you see somebody on their phone, they're trying to log into something and it says get the 2FA. On the same phone, they just go to the app and get the 2FA. There's
Yeah,
not two things there. You need another separate phone that does
right.
that, and that's where Tangem and your phone come into play with the actual 2FA.
Okay.
You could take a ledger and plug it into anything, or a keep key, plug it into whatever software that's running it. But it's
And it's
unique
quantum proof?
signature, huh?
And it's quantum proof?
Not, I don't believe in quantum proof. I think that's the Y2K buzzword of my generation, because for anything to be quantum proof, you need quantum to attack it, right? Like you can't say something's fire retardant unless you tried to set that shit on fire. And we don't have quantum computing to attack things to prove that they're quantum resistant. And I think
Yeah.
when real quantum computing does exist, it's going to it's going to change people's small brains, because people
Yeah.
think way too small when they think about quantum computing. And if we
Right.
even get close to quantum, nothing matters anymore. Nothing matters. It's like the end of that Three Body Problem movie where it's like some random hacker is going to change every Wikipedia and nobody's going to know what's real or fake anymore. It's going to be like crazy.
But this is the part of the evolvement I'm talking about, where jobs will come up as things evolve to solve these newer problems that are created in the market as AI and all of this comes
But
together.
what's the equivalent of like the burger flipper in a world where the burger flipper is a robot arm? What's the equivalent of the most remedial job for the most
Well, I
remedial
think
person?
you're going to have less remedial and more of the high skilled jobs where that pay better. They're going to be higher paying jobs, and the remedial will probably be the ones that are doing the UBI.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I feel like that creates a species difference where like uh people won't be able to afford to breed as much as those outside of the UBI. So UBI population will dwindle as the population that isn't so much on the UBI side gets to flourish in reproduction, right? And I don't know. It's a weird
People
like
are,
dystopian thing.
yeah, but people are having less children nowadays in the US anyway. Other countries are having 9 or 10 kids per family on average, and that's part of their takeover plan to take over just based on sheer population.
It's
So,
working. It's totally gonna work. I see it, and I actually that whole conversation inspired me to come up with a campaign. I haven't started the campaign yet, but I want to. Stop reproducing with billionaires, and if we can convince the 99% to stop reproducing with the 1%, they'll have to go extinct or become inbred because like nobody is going to want to breed with the 1% anymore. So like once somebody hits like 8 figures, 9 figures type shit, like we just refuse to reproduce with them as a whole in society, and we let them be a linear dynasty where their bloodline just dies off and all that money goes to us, the 99%. If we stop right, we can take the wealth from the wealthy if there's nobody for them to bequeath it to. And there's nobody for them to bequeath it to if we don't reproduce with them, because eventually the 1% will get to an inbred line and it will be illegal for them to reproduce and all their money will go to us. So this is how we steal the money from the 1%. We stop reproducing.
well, I don't believe the 1% is the problem. I think they've been the job creators in the world, and they've provided all the opportunity. And as crypto evolves, hopefully we're part of the 1%. So why would
No,
you
I'm with
begrudge
you. I'm with you, but
the
hoarding,
1%?
the 1% hoarding. Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, and Mark
They're
Zuckerberg,
they're
Elon
the
Musk.
most philanthropic people in the world. They fund everything.
Not the most. It's not
Everything.
like they're doing 90%, right? They could live on 5% of what they make a year and still be living better than 99% of the people on the planet. They hide their gluttony behind altruism or their greed behind philanthropicness, and I don't know. They don't trick me with their magic shows. I see what they're doing with this hand, but I also see what they're doing with the other hand, like Oprah buying all of Hawaii and shit after it burned down. I'm like, I see you. You can't trick me with all your donations over there.
So I think you can be, I mean, I think they may just have different interests, but I think a lot of people that will be part of the 1%, they'll want to give back, but at the same time, they're paying the bulk of the taxes. They're creating all the jobs that, I mean, basically
Yeah, but
they
all their
fund
employees are on welfare.
they fund everything. No, they're not. You're saying all the employees of Google
Well,
and
I
Microsoft
mean,
are
I'll no,
welfare?
not Google directly, but
Okay.
I mean, I'll indirectly through their third party companies. You know, not everybody who works for Google works for Google. They have like 6 different company umbrellas, and a lot of those employees under their umbrellas, where it does, Alphabet doesn't look so bad, but their subsidiaries aren't doing so great. There's always somebody at the bottom. I mean, for anybody to win. That's why I have a problem with selling crypto. I always hate it cashing out for like dollars in profit, because for me to make money, somebody had to lose it. Like if I gain $10 on like holding Bitcoin and I sell some Bitcoin, I gained that $10 from somebody who decided to sell some Bitcoin at a loss. So like that what do they call that? It's like financial entropy, I guess, at some point, trying to
Yeah,
see
but
where
they
that
didn't
energy
have to.
comes from
They
and goes.
choose. They chose to sell that at a loss. They could have hung on to their Bitcoin.
True, but then it gets into like, do we really have free will, products of environment, nature versus nurture, and like, what if their
Well,
kids were sick and they needed to bet the house on it to get like a surgery or something?
well, again, that gets back to the personal responsibility, and I think people should live below their means and
That's true.
save
I'm
as
with
much
that.
as they can and invest as much as they can. But a lot of people, unfortunately, in this consumerism world, they blow their money on
I
stupid shit
know.
they
They
do
stand
not
in
need.
line for fucking 4 days for a AP swatch for
Yeah,
$400, and they can't even afford to pay their rent. It's
right.
so
I mean,
weird.
it's crazy. It's crazy. Again, that goes back to basic financial literacy and why it makes sense to invest and not just blow your money on stupid
I'm
shit.
big on what you said too. Living beneath your means, and I say live below your means to achieve your dreams. Because if you could
Yes.
afford something, then you should choose not to do what you could afford to do. So that leaves you room to afford to do the things later.
Well,
But
there's two ways to go about it. You either figure out how to make more money or you figure out how to cut your expenses.
exactly, I didn't realize we went 20 minutes over on the hour. I am so sorry. I got sucked into the conversation.
That's okay. It's
Wow.
been a great conversation. This has been awesome.
Yeah, I didn't realize 20 minutes over the hour. I kind of like blinked and over the time flew by. I guess.
We
Do
talked
you
about so
have
many things, but we just touched on them. So,
do you have social media? Do you have like a Twitter account or anything? Where can people go
you
to
know
like keep
what?
an eye on what you're up to?
I'm so frustrated with my Twitter. I have two Twitter accounts. I have been locked out of both, and I cannot get a human being to help me get my account back. And I have had AI be do this, do that, and all roads lead to nowhere on Twitter.
Yeah.
So I cannot get into my Twitter accounts, and I've never seen such a difficult process of like, because I saved a password. Their whole process of is just backwards. But anyway, so yes, my legislative and my and I want to keep my name. It's FinTech Paulette, and I want to keep that name on
Aw.
Twitter, but I can't get into my account and I cannot get a human to intervene. And when I did find a pathway, it leads me back to the same thing that does not solve my problem. So,
Yeah, no, there's no humans on Twitter. I swear if there's anybody on the payroll, it's just fake accounts that Elon made up to embezzle money because nobody works at Twitter. There's nobody
oh,
there.
trust me, Elon does not need to embezzle money. He has got plenty of it.
Well,
He
somebody's
could
ripping
buy us
him off.
all. He could buy
Somebody
us all and sell us at a yard sale.
somebody convinced him that all these people work at X, and he never met these people because I'm telling you they're not there. Somebody convinced him to put all these people on payroll, and nobody's there. Elon, like, go check all the offices because I've been trying to get in touch with a human for over a year now, and there's just no
Same.
way. That's
Same.
so
It's so
frustrating. All right,
frustrating.
well, I'll let it go from here. Paulette, thank you so much for the vibes. Hopefully, I'll see you at another conference. There's Rare Evo in Vegas, NFT NYC in New York City, and Futurist in Toronto. Those three are worth checking out. Futurist is actually a really good one. I know it's in Canada, but your skills and resources are just as valuable to companies in Canada who are trying to maybe operate in the US.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So can you send me a link or something to the podcast?
Yeah, let me do the chat right here, and I'll just send you this Telegram link real quick. It's t.me/Ken Bozak. I think it should be it, right? Let me double check.
Oh,
That should give you a link to my Telegram. Yeah, t.me/Ken Bozak.
oh, great.
All right, and then in there I'll post the link to everything.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right,
Well, thanks
enjoy the
for having
day. Thank you.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. Thanks so much.
All right, guys, don't forget like, comment, share, all that fun stuff, and I'll see you guys tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a day.
Hello, happy bros. Hey, you're about to get a face full of the Ken Bozak. He's a mentor. That's what I heard. He's a connector. Oh yeah. He's a brilliant leader. I've seen it. He's Ken Bosak. Oh, happy bro. You gotta get some Bitcoin and hold it. Happy bros. You gotta get those NFTs and you gotta hodl that stuff. You gotta hodl it. 'Cause I'm Ken bro. We got your Bitcoin, bro. He's an original. Buy some NFTs and hold them. How many times does he have to tell you? Going to the